how to spin clouds of gloom into light. Without silence, what is song? Without night, where is dawn? Were it not for men's woes, who would smile at a rose? Nightingale, nightingale, sing of joy through the night. Let each tone silence grow, earth and heaven unite. Morning laughter, evening tears, snow and blossoms all fade. Joy must sit in the night to face change unafraid. Nightingale, nightingale, nightingale. Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways. The time has come for us to see that there's but one reality upon the earth and high above, the truth that all was made from love. A love that calls to us to fly above the hills, above the sky, above the storms, above the pain, a land where peace and laughter reign. Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways. Guide all our hopes and all our dreams, past every glow that only seems, into the light, the inner sun, into the truth that we're all one. Help us to find in every eye, in every thought, in every flower, a joy that spans eternity, the truth that makes us ever free. Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, peace and laughter reign. Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways. Guide all our hopes and all our dreams, cast every glow that only seems into the light, the inner sun, into the truth that we're all one. Help us to find in every hour, in every thought, in every flower, a joy that spans eternity, the truth that makes us ever free. Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways. Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways.
In a sense, to talk about the life of a God-realized master is to do him a disservice, because he was not that personality. When you have gone beyond the ego, you have realized that there is only one truth. He himself told us that, he told us one time, I'm not this body. When I see that I'm to come into a new body, it's like putting on a warm overcoat on a hot day. And then I get used to it and it's all right. But he said, this is not who I am. And so when we talk about who he was, we talk about what we see, not who he was. And who he was is who we all are. God, when he made this universe, had to make everything out of himself. He was not like a carpenter who could build a table and go out and fetch the wood and nails and so on. He had only his consciousness. And we are dreams of that consciousness. And we are that just as much as any master is. You have to realize when you're talking about a master, you're talking about your own higher potential. Because what he attained, you have to attain. It's your destiny. You've come into this body for a while. And you think of yourself as a limited ego. But you are not that. You are the infinite. Dreaming for a time, this little ego. The biggest thing you need to overcome on the spiritual path is the thought that I exist as a separate entity. It's really rather like jets of flame coming out of a gas stove. Each jet may be made to look different, even more different, by putting colored chemical on each one so that one will look blue, another yellow, etc. But all are basically the same gas underneath. And we are all that infinite consciousness. So when we talk about a master, we must understand that we're talking about a manifestation of that infinite one. Disciples of great masters make the great mistake of talking about theirs as the greatest. No master is greater than any other. They're all equally present manifestations of God. They all equally have understood that God is the only reality. And to say that my master is greatest because of this or because of that is to do him disservice. It's as if your goal were the equator and people going south from the equator, reaching the equator keep going southward, people going north, reaching the equator keep going northward, and when they meet each other they say, you're supposed to go north, no, you're supposed to go south, and they all have a big fight about it, when we're only, all of us, meant to go the same place, the equator. And that equator is that point of balance within yourself. All of us have to attain that. And the message of great masters is not different from that truth. It is only different according to the needs of the people of that time. When Buddha came, there was too much karma kand, and he had to talk about the importance of your doing it, not of the gods and deities doing it all for you. And so he didn't talk about God. But that didn't mean he didn't know God. He was a master. And so his disciples say that, well, we're atheists. But that wasn't his message. He just didn't talk about God. And when Shankara came to try to correct that, then he said that God, everything is Satchidananda, everything is a dream of God's. And so people say nothing is real and become too mental. Everything is real in its own way. If you're in a dream and you hit your dream head on a dream wall, your dream head will hurt. So you've got to get out of that dream. As long as you're in it, it's still real to you. And so then Ramanuja came and said that we have to understand that we are apart from that until we realize we are that. And so each master comes with a different message. And all his disciples keep saying, and therefore he's the greatest. Ramakrishna said, all are one, and therefore his disciples say he's the greatest because he said we're all one. What can you do? It's a hopeless battle. But I'm going to tell you once more, what Yogananda came to teach was not different from anybody else. He taught the same Sanatana Dharma, that is the truth, the same religion in the most distant galaxy of this universe. There cannot be another religion. There's only that religion, that everything has come from God. Everything must merge back into the God. And you are that part of that everything. And your destiny, sooner or later, is to merge back into that. But you will waste your time, and you will think that, no, I'll find happiness in money, and I'll find happiness in sex, and I'll find happiness in excitement and different things. And at the end of each life, you'll say, well, I didn't find it that way, so maybe this way, and that man's capacity for error is infinite. And therefore, man keeps wandering for millions of years. In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says, at the beginning of a day of Brahma, I throw all these souls out. That means they were there before the day of Brahma. And the Omar Khayyam, in his great scripture, his Rubaiyat, which is a scripture, not a love poem, in the Islamic culture he lived in, he had to talk about it symbolically. But he said that many souls that come into delusion at the beginning of a day of Brahma are still wandering at the end of a day of Brahma. How many days of Brahma have we been going? It's up to you. God doesn't want to pull you. He just is waiting for you to say, I want you, I love you. And people love everything but God. Most of all, they love their own egos. So, when we talk about a great master, we must understand, first of all, the level from which he comes. I don't want to present to you Yogananda as a separate and greater person than anyone else. To me, he's the greatest because he's my own. People have sometimes said to me, oh, this one was greater, that one was greater. I said, it doesn't matter, he's mine. I'm not interested in any other. When we have that kind of loyalty, when you find a guru and are loyal to him, then he will take you to the infinite shores. But many people nowadays especially they have their egos and they say, what do I need with a guru? And when they say that to me, I said, no, you don't need a guru. Just keep on being your own guru. Until finally you reach that point where I gauged. When I was seeking truth desperately. Although I was only 22, I had been seeking it all my life. And I had thought to find it in astronomy and in politics and all sorts of things. Finally I realized that there has to be a God. And I wondered, what is this God? And I remember going out into the night and asking myself that question. If there's a God, what must he be? And I was desperate to know. And I finally realized that I'm conscious, and that's why I'm asking that question. Therefore, he must be consciousness. And he is consciousness. If he is consciousness, then our duty as human beings is to attune ourselves, to open ourselves more to that consciousness. And I wanted to open myself to him. I thought of becoming a hermit in a Brazilian jungle or someplace where nobody would see me. And I thought, if I can find a little bit of peace of mind, then maybe I'll have something to share with other people. Otherwise, the world is well off without me. And at that time, God arranged it for my parents to be sent away. My father was sent to Egypt to explore for oil. The very day that I put my mother on the ship to go join him was the day I found Autobiography of a Yogi. I found it uptown in the New York bookstore. And that completely changed my life. I had been willing to give up everything just to find peace of mind. And I found him describing God as joy, love, ineffable, beyond expression. And as you heard, I took the next bus across the country, and the first words I said to Yogananda were, I want to be your disciple. Now, many years later, that was 1948 when I was 22. Now, 64 years later, I'm one of the few people living who can still say, I knew him, I was with him. And I can tell you, because I have seen that some of his disciples tried to make him an institution. You can't institutionalize truth. You can't institutionalize a true teaching. The teaching exists with or without the truth, without the organization. But the organization, in trying to make him institutional, they took away his humanity. So I am here to tell you that he was the most perfect human being I have ever known. I've met many saints. I haven't met any saints now, but in 1958, when I first came to India, I met many saints. But none of them can be compared with him. He was so absolutely natural. It was so charming being with him. He had, for one thing, an absolutely delightful sense of humor. He always remained in that inner self. When I would look into his eyes, I wouldn't see Yogananda there. I would see infinite space. I don't mean literally space. I mean, I didn't see any self-consciousness. There was no sense of I there. It was just that he was an instrument for that infinite one. And yet, living with him, I found he could be so delightfully human. I know one time, well, in his early years, perhaps he had to try to express his humanity more in such a way that other people would feel that they could come here. But in his later years, when I came to him, he was talking more in this way. I remember one time somebody asked him about a saint he had seen in Encinitas, and Master said, well, how can I know who it is? And he said, well, is that one that you met on a certain day, etc.? Well, he said, well, how can I remember? I was surprised because so many saints came to him. He said, why be surprised? Wherever God is, there his saints come. Now when they edited that for a book of his sayings, they changed it to where a devotee of God is, there his saints come. I'm a devotee of God. I cannot claim to have been so pestered. He said, I, wherever God is. He identified himself with God. And I remember I had an experience once. He said to me, when you are one with God, you are God. And I have to say that living with him was like living in the presence of God. It was an amazing experience. He knew every thought that I think. One time he spoke to me when we had guests. I would often serve him and do yoga postures for the guests. And then they would leave and we would sit at the table and he would talk to me informally for a while. He would say, by the way, that person that you were talking to at the in Beverly Hills, don't talk about miracles. I said, you knew. He said, I know every thought you think. And it was a little inconvenient sometimes. For instance, one time there was a man who was very insincere. And I told him I was going to give the lecture in the church the next Wednesday. He said, well, then in that case, I'll be sure to be there. Well, I knew he'd be there anyway, and I didn't like to take this flattery. So I said, would you please check everybody's pockets for garbage before they come in, because they might throw it at me. And he said to me, don't speak of garbage to people. It's not dignified. But he knew every thought that I thought. One time, he knew not just my thoughts, it was all his disciples. It was amazing. One time, one of his disciples was coming from Phoenix. He was a minister in the church there. And he was Master spoke of him as like a mouthful of hot molasses. Too hot to swallow, too sticky to spit out. He was always doing something wrong. Anyway, on his way back, he was getting very hungry. It was late at night, and finally James Collar came to a restaurant, the only one open, and all they had was hamburger. Well, we were supposed to be vegetarian, but James thought, oh, well, he won't know. So he ate 2 hamburgers. And Yogananda, when we talked to him, at the end of his talk, he said, by the way, James, when you're on a highway late at night and you come to a restaurant that has nothing but hamburgers, better not eat anything. And again and again, he showed his ability to know what everybody was thinking. I didn't mind it. Some people have asked me, weren't you kind of frightened by that? Not at all. I wanted him to know my thoughts. I wanted him to correct me. I was here to be his disciple. I wanted to learn. But at the same time, it was absolutely thrilling to know that he would be able to help me in every single way. He was a great guru. If you want to know God, you cannot find God without a guru. I used to try to find him. I didn't know that you needed a guru. Before I read your autobiography of a yogi, I'd never heard of the word guru. Before I read autobiography of a yogi, I didn't know anything. I thought that yoga was some sort of form of yogurt. I didn't know anything. And yet when I read that book, it completely changed everything. I remember, as soon as I read that he was a vegetarian, all right, I would be a vegetarian. And I went to a dinner that night, and they served me chicken a la king. So I pushed the chicken on the side and ate the vegetables. I hoped that was all right. But the next night I was invited out to dinner. This is after my mother had been sent to Egypt. And I was asked out to dinner, and they gave me hamburger. Well, I couldn't eat hamburger. And that day I had read that Yogananda was a monk. All right, I would be a monk. And they had thoughtfully provided me with a date. I don't mean the kind you eat. A girl. And so I carefully sat at the other end of the sofa from her. But I was determined to do everything he did, I would do. And when I finished that book, I put it down. I took the next bus all the way across the country. My friends thought me crazy. But I tell you, it was the most wonderful experience of my life to live with that man. I found that he had an absolutely charming sense of humor. I remember him saying, he quoted to me something, "Your teeth are like stars, they come out at night." And he had a lovely sense. I think he would have loved this man saying, my wife and I lived very happily for 20 years, and then we met. Anyway, he loved good jokes like that. And he had absolutely, but you know, when they edited his writings, they took the jokes out. There's a tape, you may have heard it, where he was talking about, they had a cake for his last birthday, and there was a candle there. And Dr. Lewis said, "I hope you can blow that candle out, just one candle." And Master said, I have to be careful I don't blow the cake away. He said, "There's this little breath in me left still. I just have to be careful I don't blow the cake away." And they took that last part out. They thought it seemed undignified. Well, I want to correct the message there. In his books, they've taken out his humor. They've tried, for instance, when he said that the snoring, the medical science says that snoring is a sign of deep relaxation. And he said in parentheses, "For the blissful practitioner only." They thought that's not dignified, so they took it out of the footnote. It's just painful to me what they have done with his teachings. But the fact is, he had an absolutely delightful sense of humor. And I know there was one of his disciples, he said she was working out in the garden, and she was a very plain-looking woman. And she said she will find God in this life. You know, he added, when she came here, she was just as peculiar looking as she is now. And we had a good laugh over that, but he said, she's a pure soul. But he could laugh absolutely charmingly. And yet you always knew it was the laughter of God. I know one disciple, one guru he went to, you remember Master, the levitating saint? His disciples used to worry because Yogananda was too frivolous, too light-minded. And the saint said, "But its laughter comes from God. And so it's all right." Well, it came from God. You could feel it coming from deep within. And yet, is not the nature of this universe Satchidananda? Everything, people who think that religion should make you solemn, they're missing the boat entirely. Religion should make you happy. And happiness should make you gay. Bliss, ever existing, ever conscious. And you know, Master added to that translation of Satchidananda, ever existing, ever conscious, ever new bliss. And I think that ever new is the explanation for why God created the universe. In his ever new bliss, he wanted to express himself in new ways. This universe was meant to be blissful. And if you don't have bliss in your heart, it's because you've missed the boat. You've gone in the wrong direction. You should be able to enjoy everything with the joy of God. I met a saint in Pune once. He was 132 years old, so he must have had something. But he said to me that you shouldn't enjoy anything. I said, "Not even a beautiful sunset?" "No, nothing." I thought, what a bleak approach to God. We should enjoy everything with the joy of God. And when you can live that way, life becomes a song of happiness all the way through. So he showed that happiness in himself. He had a wonderful sense of humor, as I said. He was also very compassionate to people. I know one time Devi Mukherjee was a disciple from Bengal, and he told me he was in the car with Master. And Master said, stop the car, stop the car. And they walked back and entered a junk shop, a variety shop. And Master looked around and picked up a few items, and Debbie kept thinking, well, so what's he going to do with all that junk? And he came to the desk, he paid for that junk. Well, he didn't say junk, but that's what it was, really. And the woman, when she got his money, she burst into tears. She said, I very badly needed just the sum of money today in the shop. It was time for closing time. And I thought, I'll never get it. I was desperate. She said, God himself must have sent you. And he didn't say anything. He never used those things that he bought, but he had known that she needed a complete stranger, but he had sensed her need and stopped and gone back there. He had deep compassion for people, for where they were. Why did he come back to this world? He said, I killed Yogananda long ago. No one lives in this body, the temple now, but God. But he said, I have come back, and I will come back again and again. He said, I'll come back if need be 1 trillion times, as long as one sorrowing brother sits weeping by the wayside. That kind of love is hard for you and me to understand, because this is not an easy world to live in. But he was willing to suspend his own union with God, complete merging with that infinite bliss, in order to help other people. He had that desire to help, that selfless, desireless desire to help other people. And I saw him, he could be very stern, but it was like the sternness of his mother. If the mother sees his child wandering off into the traffic of a highway, she isn't going to say, Johnny, come back, he might get run over. She's going to yank him back and spank him on his bottom. And he may think you're mean to me. But he did that, she does that out of love for him. And so even when he was mean to us, it wasn't meanness. It was out of love for us and to change us, to help us to understand. When he scolded me, I always could see in his eyes this regret that he had to speak to me strongly, because otherwise I would not understand. Living with him was, I can't tell you what a wonderful experience it was. Even sitting when we were talking about ordinary business things that had to be done, in fixing potholes in the driveway, for example, I would feel such a bliss inside that I'd sometimes just not be able to open my eyes. Tears would flow down my cheeks. And one time I remember I was in his living room at the 29 Palms, and I was leaving the room, so I was at the other end of the room. I used to be very short-sighted till I had an operation on my eyes. Now I can see you, so watch out. But before that I couldn't see my audiences. And I just looked at him. I couldn't see him clearly, but the love that emanated, it was a vital power that came from him, just filled me with tears. Living with him was such an inspiration that I can't begin, but I want to do my best to tell you what it was like because you don't have that opportunity. And I want to tell you that when I talk of him, I'm not saying he's special. He's special to me, but God is the special. God is everywhere. God is in you. And I want you to reach that point where when you, excuse me, when you see people in the streets, you feel that God is everywhere. You know, when I was in Firenze, in Florence, Italy, a few years ago, I had a very deep dream in which I saw crowds of people passing me. And I thought, all of them are looking for the same thing. They may be criminals, they may be ordinary businessmen, they may be all kinds of people. But everybody in the world is looking for only one thing, happiness. And because they all want that one thing, that is my reason for loving everybody. And now I feel that love for everybody. Because I see we all come from Satchidananda. And all of us have that planted in our hearts. Nobody in this world could be looking for misery. Because you all come from that joy. And you all want that joy. So seek that joy where it's to be found. You'll never find it outside yourself. You'll find it only inside. But when the more you feel of that joy, try to share it with other people. Don't be like those hermits who go off and hug it solely for themselves. Be one who shares with everybody the joy that you're getting. This is what Yogananda taught us. In fact, what he taught us was original Christianity and original Hindu yoga. Hindu yoga and Hinduism, truly spoken, Hinduism is not the true name of this religion. Sanatana Dharma is the true name. And Sanatana Dharma does not include Ganesha, Saraswati, Parvati, Parvati, and all these things. Sanatana Dharma is that infinite consciousness of which you are a part. You are a part of that bliss. And you will never feel happiness until you find that bliss in your own self. Therefore, he urged people to be practical about their religion, not just to chant God's name, but to try to commune with God. Belief in God is not very important. What is important is that you experience him. And you can experience him by being kind to other people. You don't experience him when you take from others, you experience when you're giving to others. Jesus Christ put it, it is more blessed to give than to receive. More blessed because more blissful. Jesus taught Sanatana Dharma. Krishna taught Sanatana Dharma. Every great religion teaches Sanatana Dharma. Any religion that teaches something short of that is not a true religion. Yes, there are false religions, but those which teach you to commune with God, to know God in your own self, to go into the silence. If you want to know God, it's not enough just to chant his name. It's not enough to just believe in him. Meditate. It's not enough to talk to him in prayer. Listen for his answer. That is what meditation is. Meditation is listening for his answer. When you can calm your mind and let him start doing the talking to you. Don't do it all yourself. That's the trouble with mantra. Mantra just keeps your mind busy. It's okay, it just keeps you at least busy, not thinking of worldly things, but it's not enough. Reach that point where after mantra, after chanting, after all yoga practice, after everything, be silent and absorb. When you do that, you will find this bliss entering your own being. You who go to mats and ashrams and so on, you don't need to go anywhere except in your own home. Have a little meditation room where you don't do anything. You know, wherever you do any activity, that place acquires the vibrations of that activity. So where you eat, those have eating vibrations. When you go to the dining room, you feel more hungry. When you go to a restaurant, you feel more hungry. When you have a meditation room and meditate there, you'll find the moment you go into that meditation room, you will begin to feel quiet. And if you can't have a room, then have a screened off portion of your bedroom and never do anything there except meditate and build the vibrations there. You will see that it will be helpful. And practice the techniques of yoga that Yogananda brought, because he didn't just bring teachings, he brought practices. And he helped us to understand. He helped us to understand what true Hinduism is. It is communing with the infinite and knowing that you are He. You know, matter seems so solid. This chair seems so solid, but it's not. It's only energy and a rate of vibration. Nothing material is solid. Everything, even the rocks, are only vibrations of energy. And that energy is are vibrations of thoughts. And those thoughts are vibrations of consciousness. Everything is conscious. Even the rocks are just dreaming. When you wake up in God, you'll see everything is just He. And this was what Yogananda made completely real to us. He helped us to see that what He was, we must become. I never saw Him say, I am anything. He said He. One time, I was sitting at His feet as He was working on His Bhagavad Gita. And I was thinking what a blessing it was to be His disciple. And He asked me to help Him to His feet. He looked into my eyes. He said, just a bulge of the ocean. That's what He saw Himself as. He said, I am not the Guru. God is the Guru. You must realize everything comes from Him. I'm only a window on His reality. Everything you do in life should be impersonal in a sense. Personal means you want it for you. Get rid of that ego. If you want to know yourself, if you want to know who Yogananda was, if you want to know what life is all about. The bliss that he expressed in his life, the absolute charm and the wisdom. He had such absolute wisdom. One time I was walking with him out at the desert, and he staggered, and I had to hold him to keep from falling. He said, you know, I'm in all these bodies. I can't remember sometimes which body I'm supposed to keep moving. Because he was everywhere. His consciousness is the consciousness He came not to show you how great He was, but to show you how great you are in your potential. You are that. And when you meet with Him, when you met with Him, you never thought of human foibles. There was no personality there. And yet He had a personality. It was a divine personality, but one of absolute love for everybody, absolute bliss, absolute forgiveness. One time somebody said to him, well, you will forgive, Master had scolded him, and the disciples said, well, you will forgive me, won't you? Master said, what else can I do? He couldn't understand not being forgiving, and he was so humble. You know, somebody with that, who was that great, you'd think at least he would feel people should show him respect. But he had great respect for everybody. He was small to everybody. One time, somebody wrote him a very nasty letter. He said to that disciple, you should take up writing. That's the best letter Satan ever wrote me. But his one adversary in life, of course, was Satan. You know, Satan does exist. It's really when God threw this universe out into existence, there had to be a power bringing it into existence. It's not wrong. There's nothing right or wrong in anything. But that power that pushes everything into manifestation, where we are on the ladder trying to get up, it becomes an obstacle. It tries to pull us down. The battle of Kurukshetra is entirely a war inside yourself. The upward moving tendencies and the downward pulling tendencies. And the Kauravas are the evil tendencies in yourself. And the Pandavas are the good tendencies in yourself. That's why in the first chapters, first stanzas of the Gita, it says, his side, that side is easy to count. Ours is difficult to count. And some people translate that into English as saying, that side is easy to vanquish, our side is unconquerable. That isn't what he meant. That is easy to count because virtues are very few. But the ways of getting into illusion are infinite. As soon as that infinite has come into dual, that duality splits up and splits up. The farther you get away from God, the more separateness there is, the more delusion there is. Satan is that power which tries to pull you back into delusion. And it's active in every one of you. But sometimes it's more active, sometimes less. You must think of it as this way. You're going on a road, God is on the right side, Satan is on the left. Neither pulls you either way. But when you move toward God, he pulls you. When you move toward Satan, he pulls you. The beautiful thing is that when you move toward God, you don't do it all yourself. He pulls you. He gives you more. First he gives you books. He gives you lectures. He gives you things that you need to hear. Finally he sends you a guru. But even having a guru isn't enough. You have to do the work. I remember one disciple of my guru. He said to you, if you don't make it in, if you leave this path in this lifetime, it will take you 200 incarnations to come back to the point that you have reached right now. That's a scary thought. It takes one time somebody said to Master, I don't think I have very good karma, Master. Master said, remember this. It takes very, very, very good karma even to want to know God. It takes very, very, very good karma even to be in this hole wanting to hear a talk about a spiritual man. And it takes a long time before you finally reach the point of wanting him so deeply that you have a guru, that God draws you to a guru. Shankaracharya said that the greatest blessing in all the three worlds, the causal, the astral, the physical universe, is to have a true guru. And when you find a guru, it says also, one moment in the company of a saint will be your raft over the ocean of delusion. To be with Yogananda, even for a few minutes, you would feel things lifting from you. When I first met him and I asked him to be my disciple, and he accepted me, he said, I give you my unconditional love. Will you give me yours? I said, yes. And then he said, will you give me your unconditional obedience? I said, well, I don't know. I said, what if I think you're wrong sometimes? He said, I won't ask anything of you that God himself does not tell me to ask you. I said, in that case, I give you my unconditional obedience. And then he had me kneel before him and take the vows of a disciple. And when he finished the vows, he put my hand over my heart. His hand vibrated for 2 minutes. And my whole life was changed. To meet such a man is the greatest blessing you can have. Even the glance of a guru is a great blessing. So don't waste your time on lesser people. Seek God. Remember, these great people come into this world to show us how great we can be and to help us to understand how we can change ourselves from our ego. He said to me one time, a man was being bothered by a demon, and he read in the Shastras that a certain mantra recited over a powder can, if you throw that powder onto the demon will disappear. And so he did this and threw it on the demon. And the demon left. He said, before you could even say your mantra, I myself got into that powder. My Guru explained that the ego is that demon. And before you can do your spiritual efforts even to try to rise out of ego, the ego's already there pulling you down. You can't get out of ego on your own. You cannot. The ego will keep showing you why you should stay in it. The only hope is to tune yourself to the consciousness of somebody who is out of the ego. And when you feel that infinite consciousness, then you reach the point where you realize that this ego is nothing. In the meantime, you can do your little bit. You can try to tell people that when people thank me for a lecture, for example, I say, God is the doer. I said that to a woman after a talk of mine in church in Hollywood in 1955. And I told her, God is the doer. She said, oh, really? As if I didn't know, I knew it was good, I didn't know it was that good. I don't mean that. Some people say God is the doer and therefore what I'm saying you better listen to. I don't mean it that way. I mean that get rid of this stupid ego which is your cause of all your suffering. If it weren't for the ego, you wouldn't have any suffering. If it weren't for this little thought of I, you wouldn't feel pain in your body. I know when I go to the dentist, I always feel that a little pain never did anybody harm, so I just refused to take a painkiller. And one time the pain was a little big, and I sort of tried to expand my consciousness over the surrounding countryside. Then the little pain in this little body didn't matter that much. But you can't do that on your own. You need help. When people say to me, do I need a guru? If they say it arrogantly, I say, no, you don't. But if they do say it humbly, I say you can't get anywhere spiritually without a guru. Because you will only be like washing a dirty shirt. Bubble of water comes up, you push it down, it comes up over here. Anything you do to overcome your faults, you'll just develop another one. The guru helps to bring his consciousness into your body. So that the more you attune yourself to his consciousness, the more you feel that I'm not doing it. He's doing it. You know, how could I write so many books and do all the things that I've done in my life? I couldn't have done it. He did it. And he can do anything and everything through you if you will give him a chance. Yogananda came into this world, as all the great masters have come, for that one purpose, to help us to understand who we are. It's not so important to talk about who he was, if it doesn't help us to understand who we are. Thou art that, Tattvamasi. You are that infinite one. You are not this little body who's looking for breakfast and wanting flattery and so on. That's not who you are. Understand that the more you understand he is working through you, the more you feel bliss in yourself. I feel bliss all the time because I feel his bliss through me. I feel that it's been, for me, the greatest honor and privilege to have lived for a few years with this great man of God. He was one who can change the whole world. One moon gives more light than all the stars. One guru, one saint, one moment in the company of a saint will be your raft over the ocean of delusion. So let me finish by singing a song in Hindi, and you can chant it with me. Hari mai tera hamesha, Hari mai tera hamesha, दूर में जाऊं तारों में रहूं, दूर में जाऊं तारों में रहूं, लेकिन मैं तेरा हमेशा, लेकिन हरि मैं तेरा हमेशा। मैं जब मारू अखियाँ को देखो, मैं जब मारू अखियाँ को देखूं, वो तुझे, वो तुझे, I can't sing it. Anyway, you know what I mean. God bless you.